All right, hello. I'm going to go over place value. All right, so I'm going to start off by showing you this handy dandy chart. All right, so as you can see, we have multiple different place values. So whether that's dealing with your whole numbers to the left-hand side of your decimal place, or you might be talking about your decimals that is on the right-hand side of the place, or the decimal point. And the decimal point is right here. Decimal point. All right. So we use this decimal point for a variety of different things in your everyday world. For instance, if you go to the grocery store, everything has a price. Or if you go to the gas station, you will see the price per gallon on a sign. And then as you're pumping, you will see the amount of gallons, which will show you a decimal point. And then also the price that you owe as well. So there are decimal points almost everywhere we look, it seems like. So it's really important that we know and understand how to use them and how to read them as well. So we're going to go ahead and practice that right now. So oftentimes I like to think of our whole numbers as cash, like um, a $1 bill would be in the ones place. A 10 would be like a $10 bill, and so on. $100 bill. Obviously, we don't have a $1,000 bill, but you can make it with tens, ones, or hundreds. Okay. And then I like to think of our decimals as our coins. So, like a tenth would be a dime, or a hundredth would be a penny. Okay, and that's the smallest we get. But I think you get the point. So decimals are kind of like our coins, and then our whole numbers are like our cash money. So, all right. Now let's dive into reading our place values. Going to from our decimal point and going up, our numbers get bigger. So we have our ones. Then we have our tens. This is multiplied by 10. So for instance, from 1 to 10, you took 1 times 10. So it's just multiplies or multiplier. It's a multiplier of 10 from each place value, if that makes sense. So we have our ones, our tens, our hundreds, our thousands, and then our 10,000s in this example. But obviously, it just keeps going on to millions and billions and trillions and so forth. Talking about our decimal point again, if we go to the right-hand side of our decimal point, we get smaller because these decimals represent a fraction or a tiny piece of a whole number. So for instance, if I had one apple, okay, that could be represented by the number 1. Now, if I ate half of that apple, okay, let's get my different color here. If I ate half of that apple, now I don't have 1, I have half. And that could be represented by a fraction. So 1/2 or 0.5. So it's just like a little piece. So they get smaller as we go. And another really cool thing is, thankfully, these names correlate. When we're talking about our decimal places, we are only adding a TH into our words. So for instance, after our decimal point, we start with the tenths. We don't start with ones because it goes in multiply cannot say it today, multipliers of 10. And a tenth would be represented like this. And if we had 10 tenths, that would equal 1. If we had 10 tenths, that would equal 1. So that's why we don't have something called oneths. Oops. Let's clear all. Hold on. Okay, there. So 10 links with tenths. Notice this is the first decimal place after the decimal point. Then we have hundreds and hundredths, thousands and thousandths, 10,000s and 10,000ths. We just add that little TH in there, and that's it. Yes, this can keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but this is all we're going to focus on today. We really don't go any further than this in the real world anyway. But I love this chart. It's so nice to reference. Okay, so then if I wanted to read a number, so I'm going to highlight a specific part of this long number, and I'm going to teach you how to read it out loud. Hold on, let me move my little bar here. It's in my way, sorry. All right, so I'm going to highlight now. So if I highlighted 52, there we go, 52.3. I would read this as 52 and our decimal point, we would read that as and. 52 and 3 tenths. Oh, that's not so bad. So whatever you end on, your last decimal place, you read what place value it has. Okay, let's try that again. What if we did 2 all the way to the 8? So now we have 2. You don't say 2 ones. We already know that. 2 and 38 hundredths. 2 and 38. I just read the word or read the number like I would on this side. 38 hundredths. Not so bad. And we can keep going from there. All right, I think we're ready to do some practice here. So there we go. Let's do some practice. Now, we can name this place. So I like to start at the ones. That is the neutral place. Oops. Oh, come on. That doesn't get repeated. Sorry, I'm really struggling. So this 7 would represent the ones place. Okay, it's right to the left of the decimal place. Okay, now I can either choose to work left or right, however I want to fill it in. So I go ones, and then here is the tens, and then we have the hundreds. All right, so here are my whole numbers. I've got those all done. Ones, tens, hundreds. Beautiful. Now I get to repeat this system. So if I'm like, I'm not quite sure, I can just draw my nice little line over my ones place. So tens, oh, this is the tenths. Hundreds, this is the hundredths. And after the hundredths would be thousandths. After the thousandths would be 10 thousandths. So I would have 707 and 707 and 2,536 10 thousandths. It takes practice. You'll get it. Okay, one more thing. I want to show you, I know it's kind of a speedy deal, but when we're talking about a fraction, such as 4/10, this can be represented as a fraction. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference between our decimals and how they are equal to a fraction. So 4/10, here's how you would write it as a fraction. 4 is your numerator and 10 as your denominator. 4/10. As you remember, this is the place value of our 4. Oh, that's 4/10. You just put 4 over 10. There we go. Let's keep going. 0.04. We'll put a 0 there just to show that there's no whole numbers. That's a really good practice to do. Okay, and since we're talking about the hundredths place here, we want to make sure we sneak a 0 to make sure that the other person, or that we know that there is no tenths. Because if we went like this, it looks like 4/10, not 400. So make sure you put your zeros for the place values that are not being used. Now, can you guess the denominator that we would use? 4/100. You got it. 400 over 100. And then we could keep going. We have 4/1000 here, and here it is as a fraction. All right. And also these decimals could be converted into percentages as well, but we will cover that later. Hopefully this was a little helpful for you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Toodaloo.